been going on for 20 years, and it's pretty much flown underneath the radar. But one of the places that you can read about this is in the Frommer's Gay Guide to the United States. They say that, they say that the Monday night poetry readings are a gay-friendly place to come and a safe haven for this. And so if you ever see the Frommer's Gay Guide to the United States, look up the Monday night poetry readings in there. It's like a travel guide. It's a really cool place to advertise the poetry readings in. Let's have a nice warm welcome for Craig.
The sorrowful virgins and the children of calamity constantly unite in the fields of self-destruction. Individually, they must pull away, blaming no one but themselves, and allowing decency to arise.
And so next we have Miss Emily Owens. Let's have a thunderous welcome for Miss Emily Owens.
I'm Emily Owens. I got all my notebooks today from like 3 years ago, and I put them all in this little satchel, and it's only about half of the notebooks. So I'm reading a lot of stuff that I haven't seen in a really long time, so I don't really have a tone to them, I'm sorry. Alright, this one's kind of for Tom, strangely. It's an untitled poem. We have reached the great literary stretch, where adjectives are close friends and nouns act as muses. Under the sweet poetic plumbing of my exacerbated speech, conjugation is still the enemy. I flooded my house with fractured sentences and a desperate lack of commas, so I can sit peacefully saying, this is the great escape from reality. The problem is the poetry has to go back to the first. Gandhi never had this problem. I've gotten the shaken paper doubt screaming through my eardrums and nesting in my parietal lobe. My pen's exploded and my paper's soaked. I was holding the great American novel with no record, out of tune and all for a dysfunctional opera. I imagined it on stage in full wardrobe, the undressing of sour love. A dynamite society of Bach dancing and judging pianos, a young girl standing front left and reminding him, you have a system and I am without the guide, you have a dream and I am without the preview, and you've got the world where I don't even know it. And none of the notes made any sense, but holding no pen names and no ideas, we all stood around the kitchen, light bulbs losing wattage, and imagining how Gandhi never had this problem. It's called Leave Your Body Behind after a 13th floor elevator. I drew pictures of out-of-place flower pots to describe the crevices of your hand and how well I'd like to know them.
When Gandhi was first developing his first views about nonviolent protest, there was all these Indians together, and they were the British soldiers were coming on horses, and they were about to wipe them all out. And one of the guys that was protesting with Gandhi knew that if you were lying down on the ground, that the horses wouldn't step on you because they figured out that they would fall down, and it was really bad, like they didn't want to fall down, you know? So they were just about to get attacked by all these English soldiers, and everyone laid down, and then all the horses stopped. And the horses wouldn't, like they were going to charge into this group of standing up people, but the horses would never charge into groups of people that were lying on the ground. And that was like their first big successful nonviolent protest where a lot of people didn't get hurt. But it wasn't because the Englishmen didn't want to ride over them, it's because the horses didn't want to ride over them. So next we have Eric reading a few of his new masterpieces. Let's have a thunderous welcome for Eric.
Tragicomic ballad of intellect. If you'll notice, I've got brain on the last line of each verse, except for the last verse. Because having a brain injury is a tragicomic ballad of intellect. And I've been reading Dante's Divine Comedy, and I'm trying to follow the style of writing. There's some parallels. I'm not sure how to describe it yet. I'm not a very good writer. I have no training. I just go with my instincts. Tragicomic ballad of intellect. Routine habits of hygiene are healthy. Bring out your dead. I'm not dead yet. Confounded brain is one way to heaven. Trained amateurs, soul investment no gain. A picture intimate, mountainous pain. Beware of dimmer, befuddled, slow brain. Human stain in paradise, still putzing around. Bitter, happy, ashen word settles in pond. Suppressed brains are not always well found. Coherent instinct to heal, flexing. Elastic progressive soul, stretching. Human element of brain, confessing. Shapely, coherent heart beating in vain. Classical network for pilfering pain. Elucidate real-time synchronous brain. Long journey at night bouncing off face. Investment in time will validate grace, period. Bittersweet brain is mindful of God. Jesus Christ, out of the wreck I rise. Healthy, organic, logical youth as a brain-infused body living eternally. Grace is part eternal theory, universal indigenous thought. Get you it, got it, good.
Next we have MD. Let's have a nice warm welcome for Mr. MD.
This is called partner shots. It's not working between us. You're too old. You're too immature. You're not really my type. I'm not ready for this. You're just too intense. Doesn't anything matter to you? You never take anything seriously. I miss what we had. You try too hard. You just take. You have never really tried alone. I need some space. You're smothering me. You won't leave me alone. You take me totally for granted. It's not you, it's me. You deserve someone better. You deserve something more. You deserve to rot in hell. We have nothing in common. You even hate yourself. All you care about is yourself. You're a selfish bastard. We're just pretending. I hope we can still be friends. I hope we can still be friends. I hope we can always be friends. And I wasn't going to read this one because I've read it down there a couple times, but since it's Lindsay's birthday and all, this has a little bit of Ginsberg in it. I think you would appreciate this one. It's called The Super Bowl of the Muse. Let's turn it on. I mean, really, turn it on. Let's turn on it. It's time to turn it around. Let's watch it from the inside. Let's turn it over before it's over. This time we'll turn that flashing fat screen upside down. We'll strip the cold fire from its flicker and tickle its underbelly as it jiggles topless in an electric dance. Let's overtip the dust bunnies, those cheerleaders of neglect, as they shake their chalky booties bristling with blue light. Let's spark their sequenced G-strings, stuffed green with sweaty money. Let's transform it all until it turns us on. This is the new American dream. It's never over until the fat one sings, and this time we'll listen to her words. It's her song that matters now. It's the Super Bowl of news, the big game and the big easy. And this year it's even bigger, better, bolder. It's more colorful, more electrifying, more engaging, and less real than ever. Can you imagine? Even the commercials have something new to say. A Harry Allen Ginsberg doing the shimmy bulges out from under his red, white, and blue something flag tank top, crowned with the rainbow of fireworks. He gulps a cold, dyed Pepsi down as he darkly sparkling stolen nectar, as if the red, white, and blue can itself was filled directly from the wet dreams of virgins. Or Allen simply belches home, twinkling his timeless grin. It's all happening now. It's super overtime. We're in the sudden death. So let's rock our rockers. Let's roll it over in the fake green grass of our imagination. Let's rewind and rerun and fast forward it to the end. This is our new beginning. Let's put a giant magnifying glass over the top of the Superdome and burn it all up. Let's tear down the old goals. Just imagine 100,000 people all paying big bucks just to sit with the big cheese and the quaking maze of stands and fans, all snapping their fingers frantically and pounding their feet for more poetry. Millions more all having super slam parties. Think of it. Poets going to Disneyland. Everybody, everywhere, stopping everything for a single afternoon. Even people who don't like poetry, feigning passion, munching down word chips dipped in dark image, taking off on hot wings, sporting inky berets to impress their own fickle muse. We're all so entranced by how the fresh blood spills butters from the cheap shop in slow motion over and over. We forget our own surging turmoil. Again, we angrily boo the fumbled phrase. Yes, all of America out of control, cheering wildly for more graceful wordplay. The yellow flags of tent tax thrown down without penalty. We can almost taste sweet victory. What's a split infinitive or even a sentence fragment when the great win is in sight? Oh yes, just think of it. Everyone, everywhere, screaming at once, slurring their meaningless slogans into a single soulful chant, throwing their hands to the sky in an endless human wave. Our real heroes are still on the field, still taking their licks for the team, slamming themselves into each other like bugs flattened on a TV screen. And now we who sit and watch from above, spring to our feet in one overwhelming motion, cross-eyed from the hard hits, shaking from exhaustion, dripping Gatorade smeared with mud and blood. The players below still frantically guard the gridiron, falling finally forward into one great, groping, greasy flesh pot, melting down like a pile of ice cubes abandoned and draining. Counting down the final seconds, we above stumble and stomp in unison, drunk on our own inner revelation, pregnant with joy, swelling with pride. We fell about beer bloated and convulsing and syncopated stepping, sinfully drenched in the sweet sweat of our symmetry. In a moment of Satari, it's finally too clear that despite all the hype, the money and the noise, there has never been anyone else down there. The final buzzer screeches as poignantly as the virgin bride learning how her new husband is not the gentleman she thought she married. Who will play the winner now? The harsh light of truth has finally turned upon us. The kill.
There was one.
There was one.
I knew this branch.
That was the one.
To hover over.
Another that was.
That was the one.
The other.
How it trembled.
One that is.
Only a moment on.
The one.
Another that was.
The other.
Cold and alone.
That is the other.
The warmth of.
There was the night.
The other.
Within the moon.
In the embrace of.
The moon within.
The perfumed air.
The night.
One that is.
There was the one.
The tabernacle.
That was the other.
Of their breath.
Within the earth.
The one.
That night.
How it always moans.
The moon spun.
An invisible thread.
Into
of
the other sky.
The other.
There was.
Under.
No one there.
A moonlight.
That night.
That is the other.
To see the moon.
My weight.
Walk the sky.
Draws me.
Cloud to cloud.
There was the night.
Spilling light.
I knew the one.
Laughing at how it
Into them.
lost the light.
Within the moon.
No one to see how.
Below walking in.
The silver cup
As certainly as.
filled the night.
The moon within.
Fills up with snow.
The silence.
To hear the ice etch.
The branch.
The bare trees.
The night.
The one black.
I hear.
The other shining.
Snaps back.
No one to see.
There was one.
The shadow.
The pattern.
With the naked dancer.
In place.
In the crystal wind.
That was the other.
The dancer.
Unheard.
Twirling his shadow.
Draws to me.
Like a dark skirt.
Within the earth.
I knew this branch.
The scramble.
How it trembled.
The one.
Cold and alone.
That night.
In the embrace of
Of the other speed.
the Italians.
The other.
How it always moans.
The moon
Under
How they dance.
my weight.
Draws me.
I knew the one.
Into the other
Below
sky.
walking in.
And stretches
The silence.
Into the
I
light.
hear
There was.
the pattern.
The silence.
Unheard.
Inside
The
the other.
scramble
No one there.
of the other's feet.
The unheard.
How they danced.
Into the
the scratchy beauty,
at night,
the silence and
how it warmed
the unheard,
their blood.
how it
To
warms
see them
the ground
ground,
beneath them.
I slide,
It is fine
walk that
the way
step
the one
beneath them,
spins to meet
like a spider,
the other
out the cloud,
behind itself,
down into
breath to breath.
spilling light.
They speak,
It is fine,
and I know,
the one,
have agreed,
laughing at how
finally to give
the way the one
themselves
into the other,
to me.
lost the light,
I swoop
spins to me,
down to
I fall,
the dark,
no one to see how
fur glittering,
the other,
to hover over,
like a basket,
only a moment on,
the silver cup
the warmth of
behind
the
itself,
perfumed air
broken glass,
of their breath,
filled
an
in it,
invisible thread
breath to breath,
of the moonlight
into the web,
draws me
fills up the snow,
into them,
they speak,
as certainly as
that they were,
the branch
to hear the
snaps
other
back
and I know,
in place,
together,
draws to me,
their trees,
the one,
have agreed,
the other,
the shadow end,
draws me
the one black,
into the one,
finding together,
inside the other,
dancer,
into the fire
the
of
other shining,
their blood.
themselves,
I slide
still warm,
like a spider
no one to see,
down into
to me,
the one,
inside,
into the other.
the shadow,
I fall
I inhale,
like a basket
with the naked
of broken
dancer,
glass
I swoop,
into the web
sweet
that
meat
they were,
in the crystal
together,
wind, down onto
with the shadow
my breath,
and the
the
dancer
dancer,
still warm
the dark,
and silent.
breathes them in,
I inhale
twirling its shadow,
their sweet meat,
fur glittering,
my breath
all
breathes them in,
like a dark skirt,
all
the way in.
the way in.
Let's have a nice warm welcome for Jane.
This is my book. It's by me, Jane Ripley. And it's called Hot Dog Soup. And it was published in 2003. All right, cold metal. Hot metal, cold metal, flaming metal, your metal. Manufactured steel, shattering bones, surge, skin implosion within. Don't mess with the poet. She's got her own gun. In a police state called America, motherfucking apple pie in the sky, dropping propaganda saying live spells backward is evil. Don't mess with the poet, she's got her own gun. Cheeseburger, obese, Mr. Rogers, all on sweaters, watches the news in bunny slippers, his golf shirt 2 old days would stink. Impossible to see the pupils in his blurry eyes. He breathes his bits in a technology of terror, never pondering the interpretation of the signal. Don't mess with the poet. She's got her camera on you, you carnivore of consumer consonants, crib for curtains, eating ribs. They'll rope you in, stick you with your own kind behind bars. You think your weakness is their strength. Might makes right, mister, and we will lobotomize the weaker cerebellum. Just don't mess with the poet. She's got her own gun. Tell them you won't buy it, you won't try it, and you're on a diet of liars and point-and-click whiners. Don't threaten the poet or wave your pistol in her face. She strangles with metaphor and syntax that constricts the esophagus, words that purr like white-hot sex to make you forget. Don't mess with the poet, she's got her own gun. Barbie's face is the American way. The silicone smoke and mirrors, the crocodile tears, the grape stains on last night's party dress. We've pumped up the illusion so you can feel like a real man. Plagued with misinformation, ready to strike to make up for the anatomical defect. Don't mess with the poet, she's got her own gun. For as long as you exist, she will be there to refuse you, to bruise you, so the strength is scaled properly, and the quantum fear's veneer doesn't always crawl with maggots. Okay, this is a really fun one. It's got a fun thing going on. Thorazine. He woke up bleary-eyed, but the demons left his head. Lithium, cogentin, milk and steak and eggs, daddy's shotgun in the closet, mama's quilt on the bed, and 600 mgs of Thorazine shaking his leg. At the SSI office, she had bowling pin hair. They gave him 400 just to sit and stare. Whittle monster figures, comb the streets and beg. 600 mgs of Thorazine shaking his leg. His apartment's real puny on Bellevue Street. The gunshots echo and the car alarms repeat. The rotten smell of mangoes, it filled him with dread. 600 MIGs of Thorazine shaking his leg. The sun nods off, he sits in a chair, drinking Mountain Dew and taking in the air. Says a prayer to him, thanks God for the meds. 600 MIGs of Thorazine shaking his leg. I'll show that man a thing or two. I really will. He comes home and he drinks all my red juice, leaves the seat up, breaks all the glasses in my kitchen, and goes out and mows the lawn perfect. I'll show that man a thing or two. He won't forget me. All the neighborhood ladies, they follow him around on Saturday morning, and during the week they're like flies on shit in the water cooler where he drinks. I'll show that man a thing or two. He told me I couldn't cook a roast, not the way he could cook it. Yet I'm always in the kitchen fixing food. I hate to eat later. I'll show him. I'll show them. I'll show them all just how good I can cook and decorate and paint my nails blue. I'll show them how to drive in rush hour and how to read Erica John books while standing on my head. I'll show them, damn it. I'll show them a thing or two. I'll show those brunettes that I can work a flashlight, how to change my oil, how to see at night. I'll show them I ain't no fake. Fuck them all. Life's a piece of cake. Take off that Janice album, start up the clam bake. I'll show them, damn it, I'll show them.
Next we have Clint, who's a school teacher. Only person that got that joke. So let's have a nice warm welcome for Clint.
It's a true story about a friend who moved to Boulder. It's called Where Diana Lived in Boulder. It took half a day to clear a path from my room down the stairs to the bathroom he said I could use. There was a rat crushed on page 378 of the 15-year-old phone book when I finally found it under a stack of Reader's Digests in the hall, and he swept the winter fur from his ancient border collie into a corner behind the door, and he swore he gathered it up at least twice a year and that it was not a significant health hazard. And there were 12 umbrellas hanging open from the basement ceiling, and I wonder if that's why he always battled bad luck. There was a glasses lens circle of Dawn liquid on the kitchen windowsill that had been there so long that even soap began to grow mold. And I had to chisel it off with a hammer and an old serrated kitchen knife. All this, but there was nothing I could do to clean up what was eating out his head. He wouldn't let me get that close. His patience would only stretch so far as an old dusty rag and a plastic bottle of Lysol, and I lived there 2 weeks.
Yeah. Let's have a nice warm welcome for Steele.
Come hearts of the Boulder Co-op. Come hearts and hands in cooperation for life and planet harmonization, for community and family crystallization, for all creatures jubilation. Come hearts and hands in cooperation to stop profit-focused abominations, to stop ecological evisceration, to stop materialistic retardation. Like the hive and the bee, or moon and earth mother, like the raindrops and the tree, or lovers for each other, come hearts and hands in cooperation for permaculture and conservation, for sustainable business initiation, for citizen activist propagation like the feather and the quail, or song and melody like the ocean and the whale, or molecule and gravity. Come hearts and hands in cooperation to stop megamedia regurgitations, to stop innocent species brutalization, to stop political corporate copulation. like the hive and the bee, or moon and earth mother, like the raindrops and the tree, or lovers for each other. Come hearts and hands in cooperation, for life and planet harmonization, for community and family crystallization, for all peoples, for all the rivers, for all the forests, for all the oceans, for all the life forms, for all future lovers. Come hearts and hands in cooperation.
Let's have a nice warm welcome for Brody.
Father, where are you tonight? The beer you said was blood is sopping up the page. Old poems make me soggy. How come the armpit stinks? Hair matted in the bath drain, pretty faucet, and toothpaste in the cabinet. I drink a couple drinks and bow to commodity. Old grub is gone. The toothless say it's the teeth that makes the mouth stink so. April's budding breast, curled up leaves make the warm melt the shy. A little baby is held to its father by a cotton sling. Language vibrates in the father's chest like oil seasoned slow and subtle vibrato. I want a jelly donut covered in frosting. I want a 3-year-old girl on my shoulders. And how do I hate when I look like I'm writing a poem in public? I love my apartment's angular walls, the couch like a half shell of a coffin. So honey, roll your leg over, look up from my own small suffocatory world to the vast world of the open, the sound of the teacup on the saucer, the light hits the hand of a man who is using it to talk. Oh minstrelsy, how you spotlight poverty, society's armpit, the sphincter that lets the laughter in. Who makes dog suits but for the poor to wear? Nothing but dollars and loose change in your doggy dish. I'm reminded of older fools, the ball-toed jesters of old stuffy courts. How noble to scratch the laughter from the lungs of dangerous queens. I cake my eggs with sharp cheddar. This morning I didn't want to smoke anything. The birds were noticeable until I turned on a loud record and I thought I was going to ask you on a walk and sang. But now in class my leg is crossed the other. Out the window I see the vines crawling up the red building and the puddles and streams are ready to freeze again. The slow wink of night caps day, sunset the color of a wine stain. Hold tight above the chill, in and under, circumstance. Dust bunnies cling to the broom as the philodendron grows an inch toward the window. These are all coming really fast, I'm just trying to plow through them. The tongue rolls over the teeth in speech, pushing ordered words. Down the hallways of commerce, dull consumers drag their feet, their shoes full of gold, piss, impudence. All I wanted was a bag of carrots. The light above aisle 9 is flickering. Dan, can I get a price check on bulk frozen breakfast potatoes? All I wanted was to eat some eggs at the table with my wife. Who's counting points? Textured spores and curls, moist in some warm secret. Word is sheltered, bobbed on the knee, fed milk from the oldest breast. Look at the shadow on your face, and at once you got to thinking, which is eventually an exercise in eating. Even the nose is reported by the shadows. Aisle 9 is selling freeze-dried birthday candles, miniature keychain pianos, sex, posture, all that, lips buried, all that. I want to suck June's hot finger, swallow the damp germ of the egg which bakes under the wing, that seared stomach that belches its own image over and over into the grass, the boiling nerve of sport tucked in the loin begs its shape into the thighs, that sepulchre where the bloody rivers kept. What is older than salt? The tear that cultures, worn rock sheen of water, slippery and sinister. Wind-thumped branches stand up in the sun where they must not be brittle, and all of these urchin hungers could divide you like a pear. Salt to callous you, all air must come from the sea, all water will evaporate, Flesh is bread and river, sand and wine in summer, June's hot finger in the mouth, season sucking the damp germ, the deer in fever, dung and jolly rumping, to push death's new shadow is white light from the blood, grass alive with snake and cricket to mark the stern divides between the sexes, hard-boiled sun, language in its line, pressed to be worn, cordial, weak, yellow carp in the muck, like patient yellow Buddhas, seaweed and a lotus, and lilies crown of leaves. Just that.
Tonight, in addition to having an open reading, we're going to celebrate the 81st anniversary of Allen Ginsberg's birth by reading some of his poems. He was born on June 3rd, 1926, which was 81 years ago on Saturday. And he lived most of his life in New Jersey, where his dad was a high school English teacher in Patterson, where the great American poet William Carlos Williams lived. And his mom had grown up attending a lot of Communist Party meetings, and she had developed a severe mental illness and had spent most of her life in and out of mental hospitals. And he grew up pretty happy, average life, where most of his early photographs show him looking really, really happy. And about 1943, when he was 17, he went to Columbia, where he met Jack Kerouac and Allen Ginsberg, as well as Lucien Carr, who ended up becoming a API wire service reporter. His son Caleb Carr wrote a couple of bestsellers in the last 10 years. And Lucien Carr also had been being stalked his whole life by his Boy Scout leader from St. Louis, Missouri. And at one point, he changed the course of Kerouac and Burroughs' life by killing this guy who'd been following him around his whole life. This guy would follow him from city to city and was climbing up on his fire escape, looking in his window, and he stabbed this guy, and he ended up telling his friends that he killed this guy that had been stalking him his whole life. And by their not going to the police and turning him in, they were committing the felony of not being privy to the information about a murder without saying anything to anybody about it. And so I think that Kerouac was arrested at the time and put in the Tombs jail for a witness after the fact. And he ended up getting married in jail to Edie Parker from Grosse Pointe, Michigan. And he wanted to get married, and his girlfriend's dad said that he would bail him out of jail if he married his daughter. And so he told the jailer that he needed an hour off from jail to get married. So the jailer from this jail in New York City took him and his girlfriend to the city hall where they got married, and then they all went out and had drinks afterwards. And then for hours. And then the jailer took Kerouac back to jail. That doesn't happen too often nowadays. But Ginsberg ended up writing the poem Howl in 1953, and it became a world-renowned cause-like celebrity between 55 and 57. This, I think last year was the 50th anniversary of the publication of the poem, when it was first published in a Mimeo edition of 30 copies by Kenneth Rexroth and his wife, and those were all given away for free. Those 30 copies, like now, are worth like $30,000 or $40,000 a piece. Mimeo is this kind of pre-Xerox where they would, you know, if any of you are as old as me, which I think Doug and maybe a few other people might be, Mimeo was this thing where they had this circular hand-cranked copy machine that operated with chemicals and purple ink. So when you got your test at school, the paper would actually still be wet and would smell of these chemicals. So they made 30 Mimeo copies of this book and gave them out to people. And then when it was originally published, Lawrence Ferlinghetti sent it overseas to Europe to be printed, and when they sent it back, when they were sending some of the copies out, he took some of the uncut pages of the book, which had like the word cocksucker in it, and wrapped the books that he was sending out in this paper with the words on the outside. And he had this idea that if the Postal Service had tried to censor him, that he would become a famous publisher, and this book would get a lot of free publicity and would sell a lot better, you know? At the same time, Ginsberg was born in the same year as Marilyn Monroe and Hugh Hefner. And Hugh Hefner was also just shortly before that had challenged the law of sending new photographs through the mail, which was illegal at the time, with his magazine Playboy. Any magazine before 1953 that had attempted to distribute any kind of nudity through the mail, the people had been arrested. So they went into City Lights bookstore and arrested this guy Shug, who was the clerk, who had sold the only copy of Howl. And Ferley Ginsberg went on trial, and this trial was covered in Life magazine and in the New York Times and all over the world. And it made him famous like he thought it would, and it made this poem very famous. And you know, a lot of people nowadays, they probably thought, oh, Allen Ginsberg wrote on Jack Kerouac's coattails to fame or something, but it was really kind of the other way around, even though Kerouac had written 1 million words before he met Ginsberg and Burroughs. Ginsberg took the manuscript on the road and gave it to a bunch of publishers and got it looked at a lot more because of the success and popularity and notoriety that Howl had got him. And he went on for the rest of his life to act as kind of a publicity agent for his best friends Kerouac and Burroughs. And he'd given the manuscript to Junkie to one of his friends that he met in the mental hospital, Carl Solomon, who gave it to A.A. Wynn, and that was how William Burroughs' first book got published by, through one of Allen Ginsberg's friends. This book, Junkie, which was 35 cents originally, now sells for well over $1,000 for the paperback edition, which came out in an Ace double edition with this other book called Narcotic Agent. And Ginsberg, I just read this great interview with him in Playboy magazine for 1969, where he just, every sentence that came out of his mouth was really inspired. And I don't know if they'll ever print those interviews in a book, but it was this totally amazing interview where, he was bragging about his gay marriage to Peter Orlovsky, who's still alive and well, living in Vermont. And we hope to get him to come back out here and read again in our series someday. But Ginsberg moved to Boulder in 1973, where he had met this guy, Troygan Trumpa Ricochet, when him and Peter Orlovsky were actually fighting over a cab with Troygan Trumpa Ricochet in New York City just by accident. They were both trying to get in the same cab, and then Peter Orlovsky struck up a conversation with Troygan Trumpa Ricochet, and then Troygan Trumpa had asked Allen if he wanted to start a Buddhist college with him, and he had come out here to Boulder, and they started Naropa University, which was then the Naropa Institute, and brought a lot of beatniks to Boulder, Colorado, and brought many other people. I'm sure Dylan and myself and many other people moved here to go to that school. So we'll be reading some of Ginsberg's poems tonight to celebrate his birthday. So this is called A Supermarket in California, and 11 summers ago, in the summer of '96, the last time that Ginsberg read in this series, right before he died, he read this. So many people came to hear him read in this series that 200 people had to wait outside, and then he agreed to give 2 separate readings where everyone from the first reading would have to leave, and then we let everyone else in. And he read this poem for the first time in 50 years back then. So it's called A Supermarket in California. What thoughts I have of you tonight, Walt Whitman, for I walk down the side streets under the trees with a headache, self-conscious, looking at the full moon, and my hungry fatigue in shopping for images. I went to the Neon Fruit supermarket dreaming of your enumerations. What peaches and what penumbras, whole families shopping at night, aisles full of husbands, wives in the avocados, babies in the tomatoes, and you, Garcia Lorca, what were you doing down by the watermelon? I saw you, Walt Whitman, childless, lonely, old grubber poking among the meats in the refrigerator and eyeing the grocery boys. I heard you asking questions of each. Who killed the pork chops? What price bananas? Are you my angel? I wandered in and out of the brilliant stacks of cans, following you and followed in my imagination by the store detective. We strode down the open corridors together in our solitary fancy, tasting artichokes, possessing every frozen delicacy and never passing the cashier. Where are you going, Walt Whitman? The doors close in an hour. Which way does your beard point tonight? I touch your book and dream of your odyssey in the supermarket and feel absurd. Will we walk all night through solitary streets? The trees add shade to shade. light out in the houses, we'll both be lonely. Will we stroll dreaming of the lost America of love past blue automobiles and driveways home to our silent cottage? Ah, dear Father, gray beard, lonely old courage teacher, what America did you have when Sharon quit poling his ferry and you got out on a smoking bank and stood watching the boat disappear on the black waters of Lathe? Berkeley, 1955. So our first poet tonight was also Gemini born this week, Mr. Doug Thorburn. Let's have a nice warm welcome for the birthday boy, Mr. Doug Thorburn.
Hey. That's my theme song, in my way of life. I'm a Ginsberg group. Since 58, 59, I always had a copy of Howell wherever I went. When I studied with him, I was writing a poem with him, and he said, why the fuck would a lawyer want to be a poet? And then about 5 or 6 years ago, the State Bar Association and I agreed that if I was going to drug and drink, I couldn't be a lawyer. So I turned in my license, and I just write this stuff until I could convince them that I was sane. And that's a very hard thing to do these days. So I just wrote this. Ginsberg, this is an excerpt from a long piece that he did, and it's just one line. Denver is lonesome for its lost legion of heroes. I don't know if anybody knows where that's from. So I wrote this Sestino a while back, and my first line was, Denver is no longer lonesome for its lost legion of heroes. They don't even remember them. Sorry, Alan. Thanks.
What year did you move to Colorado, Doug? You were a ski patrol back then?
No, I was drunk and a drug addict up in that.
Were you also a ski instructor or something?
I taught skiing and I contracted. They didn't have snowplows. So
Do you mean Warren Miller back then?
not really. Warren Miller from 1980.
Warren Miller wrote this great book called Wine, Woman, and Skis. He's a popular ski filmmaker nowadays, but he also wrote some great ski books. And he used to have this
I
trailer that
lived
he
that when
built.
I was in grade school, Tom. And
Really?
Powell and Wine Woman Warren skis.
Yeah.
Fine for the rest of my life.
Yeah, he built this homemade mobile home, which was like this big, you know, and he pulled it behind his car, and he used to spend the whole summer in the parking lot of Aspen Ski Resort sleeping in this homemade mobile home that was basically just big enough to crawl in with a sleeping bag, and it had like a barbecue pit attached to it. And like in the late 50s, he used to just use a ski bum, as they were called, because they had no money, and they used to just ski and have big parties in the parking lot, and I bet things like that will never be the same. Now you have to be a millionaire to hang out in the parking lot of Aspen.
The ski patrol is Sun Valley.
Yeah. And so next we have Lonnie reading from Allen Ginsberg's selected poems. And Lonnie brought her son Oscar here tonight, so let's have a thunderous welcome for Lonnie and Oscar.
I am a victim of the telephone. When I lie down to sleep, dream the wishing while it rings. Have you a new play for the broken down theater? When I write in my notebook a poem, it rings. Buster Keaton is under the Brooklyn Bridge on Frankfurt and Pearl. When I unsheath my skin, extend my cock towards someone's thighs, fat or thin, boy or girl. Ting-a-ling, please get him out of jail. The police are crashing down. When I lift the soup spoon to my lips, the phone on the floor begins purring. Hello, it's me, I'm in the park. 2 broads from Iowa, nowhere to sleep last night. Hit in the mouth. When I muse at smoke crawling over the roof outside my street window, purifying eternity with my eye observation of gray, vaporous columns in the sky. Ring, ring, hello, this is Esquire. Be a dear and finish your political commitment manifesto. When I listen to radio presidents roaring on the convention floor, the phone also chimes in. Rush up to Harlem with us and see the riots. Always the telephone linked to all the hearts of the world, beating at once, crying, my husband's gone, my boyfriend's busted forever, my poetry was rejected. Won't you come over for money, and please, won't you write me a piece of bullshit? How are you, dear? Can you come to East Hampton? We're all here bathing in the ocean, we're all so lonely. and I lie back on my pallet contemplating a $50 phone bill, broke, drowsy, anxious. My heart fearful of the fingers dialing the deaths, the singing of telephone bells, ringing at dawn, ringing all afternoon, ringing at midnight, ringing now, forever. This is called Written in My Dream by W.C. Williams. As is your bearing, a common truth, commonly known as desire, no need to dress it up as beauty, no need to distort what's not standard to be understandable. Pick your nose, eyes, ears, tongue, sex, and brain to show the populace. Take your chances on your accuracy. Listen to yourself, talk to yourself, and others will also gladly relieved of the burden of their own thought and grief. What began as desire will end wiser.
In this first poem that you read about I'm a victim of the telephone, he talks about Buster Keaton is under the Brooklyn Bridge. And Buster Keaton was an early silent movie comedian, and Peter Orlowski and Allen Ginsberg went to New York, and they heard that Buster Keaton was filming a movie under the Brooklyn Bridge, and it was this avant-garde film that Samuel Beckett had written, and it's like 110 degrees in the summer, and Buster Keaton had to wear like this long overcoat and this hat and everything. I was asking Peter Orlowski what it was like to meet Buster Keaton, so he said that Ginsberg and him heard that Buster Keaton was going to be in town filming this movie, and they traveled all the way across town, and he said that they came up to Buster Keaton and said, "Hello, Mr. Keaton, I'm Allen Ginsberg, and this is my boyfriend, Peter Orlowski." And Buster Keaton said, "So what?" And that was the extent of their meeting, that made it into that poem. That's what Peter told me that story in the VA hospital in New York City, where he was introducing me to all the other patients as his son. But next we have Clint. Let's have a nice warm welcome for Clint, also reading from the same book of Allen Ginsberg's selected poems.
Okay, this is called Song. The weight of the world is love. Under the burden of solitude, under the burden of dissatisfaction, the weight we carry is love. Who can deny? In dreams, it touches the body. In thought, constructs a miracle. In imagination, anguishes till born inhuman. Looks out of the heart, burning with purity, for the burden of life is love. But we carry the weight wearily, and so must rest in the arms of love at last. Must rest in the arms of love. No rest without love. No sleep without dreams of love. Be mad or chill, obsessed with angels or machines, the final wish is love. Cannot be bitter, cannot deny, cannot withhold if denied. The weight is too heavy. Must give, for no return as thought is given in solitude in all the excellence of its excess. The warm bodies shine together in the darkness. The hand moves to the center of the flesh. The skin trembles in happiness, and the soul comes joyful to the eye. Yes, yes, that's what I wanted. I always wanted to return to my body where I was born.
And one of the things that Ginsberg used to like to brag about is there was this guy who, I have his book at my store called The Circle of Sex, and his name was Chester Arthur, and he was the great-great-grandson of Chester Arthur, the President of the United States, and he was a gay poet in San Francisco, and Ginsberg said that Walt Whitman slept with his secretary, and then Walt Whitman slept with Walt Whitman's secretary, and then Walt Whitman's secretary slept with Chester Arthur. And then Chester Arthur slept with a guy who slept with Neil Cassidy, who slept with Allen Ginsberg. So Allen Ginsberg slept with somebody who slept with somebody who slept with somebody who slept with somebody who slept with Walt Whitman. And this guy, Chester Arthur, who is this gay astrologer in San Francisco and also the great-great-grandson of the President of the United States, had this book, The Circle of Sex, where he believed that you were spiritually tied to everyone that you had sex with, and they were spiritually tied to everyone they had sex with, and so how we were all cosmically connected through the circle of sex. And so Ginsberg, who was born, like 36 years after Walt Whitman died, still slept with somebody who slept with Walt Whitman. So let's have a thunderous welcome for our videographer tonight, Dylan Hawk. Come on, put your hands together in the back, baristas.
I only have a few pieces from Alan's journals, mid-50s, and so they're very short snippets. I was going to mainly just share some stories about Alan in conjunction with those. There's three of them. The first one, as I was just telling Brody very briefly outside, when I first discovered I wanted to be a writer, it was about the same time I started discovering that this group reads Allen Ginsberg, and I'm sure that's been the case for a lot of people since then. But I used to read when I walked around town and carry a flask of wine with me and read Allen's work. And I love to piece together people's biographies to see how that might have skewed or influenced their work. And now thinking back, it's been a number of years now, it makes me laugh to think that when I was walking around town reading Allen, I was still very new to him, so I would make notes in the margins, and one of them I found in an old book of his. It says, Allen Ginsberg, gay? That shows, that's not a comment on sexual preference at all. It's more like now I want to reread everything I've read by him so I can see how that might influence his writing. Because I took him, obviously, as very Whitman-esque, but I didn't think anything more of it. I don't even know if I knew Whitman was gay at the time either. But it's just so funny because I've spent so much time with Allen through the years, and his words, I've never met him again, but just his words and his presence through those, it seems so funny to think that, to know so little about him. Anyway, I just moved back from Michigan to get to the point, and I was out here a few years ago and studying at Europa, and I moved back because I had a kid and I was freaked out, so I moved back home to be near family, and then I was like, why did I move back here? Because there's just nothing going on really outside of seeing friends and family. And one of the things that made me want to move back to Boulder is something that Alan's written here, something that I think applies to Boulder very well. It says, fortunately, art is a community effort, a small but select community living in a spiritualized world, endeavoring to interpret the wars and solitudes of the flesh. And I think Boulder really, at least the bubble of Boulder that I'm interested in, really embodies that. And that was a big draw for me to come back here. I used to take a lot of things in Boulder for granted because there's a lot happening here. And then I moved away and realized that it's not happening everywhere you go, unfortunately. This one is from his journals in March 17, 1956. There is no God, and we do not have to be passing through to God in order to receive approval and compassion from fellow humans. The light is our own. The light exists for everyone. The light of human mercy. It's something I agree with wholeheartedly. And, it's so nice to see when you have sentiments that you haven't really put into words. Someone else has already had them and put them very nicely. Oh yeah, I'm not crazy. And this last little bit, it's not dated. Looks like it's from 55. When we are dead, what will remain of us? All the loves and bodies, night and car rides, the rainy streets and tossing passionate heads. Nothing, baby. Body will be gone. Others will be fucking, but the whole earth will be shoveled over into corruption till it's incorruptible and void. Therefore, I've written these lines to communicate internal meanings in time. Passionless, Ishergads. So, happy birthday to Alan. He's someone I fall in love with over and over again. And, I haven't read his selected poems there that I brought, but I think maybe it's high time
So, thanks.
Let's have a nice warm welcome for MD.
I know this poem's one that you probably all have heard, but it's probably the first one I remember coming to Ginsberg. And 40 years ago when I first fell in love with Ginsberg's work, it was one that stood out and hooked me. America. America, I've given you all, and now I have nothing. America, $2.27, January 17, 1956. I can't stand my own mind. America, when will we end the human war? Go fuck yourself with the atom bomb. I don't feel good, don't bother me. I won't write my poem till I'm in my right mind. America, when will you be angelic? When will you take off your clothes? When will you look at yourself through the grave? When will you be worthy of your million Trotskyites? America, why are your libraries full of tears? America, when will you send your eggs to India? I'm sick of your insane demands. When can I go to the supermarket and buy what I need with my good looks? America, after all, it is you and I who are not perfect. The next world. Your machinery is too much for me. You made me want to be a saint. There must be some other way to settle this argument. Burroughs is in Tangiers, and I don't think he'll come back. That's sinister. Are you being sinister, or is this some form of practical joke? I'm trying to come to the point. I refuse to give up my obsession. America, stop pushing. I know what I'm doing. America, the plum blossoms are falling. I haven't read the newspaper for months. Every day somebody goes on trial for murder. America, I feel sentimental about the Wobblies. America, I used to be a communist when I was a kid. I'm not sorry. I smoke marijuana every chance I get. I sit in my house for days on end and stare at the roses in the closet. When I go to Chinatown, I get drunk and never get laid. My mind is made up, there's going to be trouble. You should have seen me reading Marx. My psychoanalyst thinks I'm perfectly right. I won't say the Lord's Prayer. I have mystical visions and cosmic vibrations. America, I still haven't told you what you did to Uncle Max after he came over from Russia. I'm addressing you. Are you going to let your emotional life be run by Time magazine? I am obsessed by Time magazine. I read it every week. Its cover stares at me every time I sneak past the corner candy store. I read it in the basement of the Berkeley Public Library. It's always telling me about responsibility. Businessmen are serious. Movie producers are serious. Everybody's serious but me. It occurs to me that I am America. I'm talking to myself again. Asia is rising against me. I haven't got a Chinaman's chance. I better consider my natural resources. My national resources consist of 2 joints of marijuana, millions of genitals, and unpublished unpublishable private literature that goes 14,000 miles an hour in 25,000 mental institutions. I say nothing about my prisons nor millions of underprivileged who lived in my flower pots under the light of 500 suns. I have abolished the whorehouses of France. Tangiers is the next to go. My ambition is to be present despite the fact I'm Catholic. America, can I write a holy litany in your silly mood? I will continue like Henry Ford. My strokes are as individual as his automobiles, so they're all, more so, they're all different sexes. America, I will steal your strokes, 2,500 apiece, 500 down on your old stroke. America, free Tom Mooney. America, save Spanish loyalists. America, Sacco and Vanzetti must not die. America, I am the Scottsboro Boys. America, I was 7. When I was 7, Mama took me to the communist cell meetings. They sold us garbanzos, a handful per ticket. A ticket cost a nickel and the speeches were free. Everybody was angelic and sentimental about the workers. It was all so sincere. You have no idea what a good thing the party was in 1835. Scott Nearing was a grand old man, a real minch. Mother Boer made me cry. Once I saw Israel Adler playing, everybody must have been spy. America, you don't really want to go to war. America, it's them bad Russians. Them Russians, and them Chinamans, and them Russians. The Russians want to eat us alive. The Russians power mad. She wants to take our cars from out of our garages. He wants to grab Chicago. He Her needs read Reader's Digest. Her wants auto plants in Siberia. Him big bureaucracy running our filling stations. That no good. Him and Indians learn to read. Him need big black niggers. Her make us all work 16 hours a day. Help. America, this is quite serious. America, this is an impression I get from looking at the television set. America, is this correct? I better get right down to the job. It's true. I don't want to join the army or turn lazy precision parts factory. I'm nearsighted and psychopathic anyway. America, I'm putting my queer shoulder to the wheel.
And I remember falling in love with this poem when I was in the 9th grade. And I remember just feeling really liberated by its musicality and its subject matter. And I remember hearing Ginsberg read it for the first time on an audio recording that I downloaded online. And it reads like some incantation from some like rogue Bible or something. So, how I saw the best minds of my generation destroyed by madness, starving, hysterical, naked, dragging themselves through the Negro streets at dawn, looking for an angry fix. Angel-headed hipsters, burning for their ancient heavenly connection to the starry dynamo and the machinery of night, who poverty and tatters and hollow-eyed and high, sat up smoking in the supernatural darkness of cold-water flats floating across the tops of cities contemplating jazz, who bared their brain to heaven under the L and saw Mohammedan angels staggering on tenement roofs illuminated, who passed through universities with radiant, cool eyes, hallucinating Arkansas and Blake like tragedy among the scholars of war, who were expelled from the academies for crazy and publishing obscene odes on the windows of the skull, who cowered in unshaven rooms in underwear, burning their money in wastebaskets and listening to the tear through the wall, who got busted in their pubic beards returning to Laredo with a belt of marijuana from New York, who ate fire and paint hotels or drank turpentine in Paradise Alley, death, or purgatory their torsos night after night with dreams, with drugs, with waking nightmares, alcohol and cock and endless balls, incomparable blind streets of shuddering cloud and lightning in the mind, leaping toward pools of Canada and Patterson, illuminating all the motionless world of time between, peyote solidities of walls, backyard green tree cemetery dawns, wine drunkenness over the rooftops, storefront burrows of tea-head joyride, neon blinking traffic light, sun and moon and tree vibrations in the roaring winter dusts of Brooklyn, ash can rantings and kind king light of mine, who chain themselves to subways for the endless ride from Battery to Holy Bronx on Benzedrine until the noise of wheels and children brought them down shuddering, mouth racked and battered, beat the brain all drained of brilliance in the drear light of zoo, who sank all night in submarine light of Bigfoots, floated out and sat through the stale beer afternoon in desolate Fugazis, listening to the crack of doom on the hydrogen jukebox, who talked continuously 70 hours from Park to Pat to Bart to Bellevue to Museum to the Brooklyn Bridge, a lost battalion of platonic conversationalists jumping down the stoops, off fire escapes, off windowsills, off Empire State, out of the moon, yakking, screaming, vomiting, whispering facts and memories and anecdotes and eyeball kicks and shocks of hospitals and jails and wars. Whole intellects disgorged in total recall for 7 days and nights with brilliant eyes, meat for the synagogue, cast on the pavement, who vanished into nowhere, Zen, New Jersey, leaving a trail of ambiguous picture postcards of Atlantic City Hall, suffering eastern sweats and Tangerian bone grindings and migraines of China under junk withdrawal in New York's bleak furnished room, who wandered around and around at midnight in the railroad yard, wondering where to go and when, leaving no broken hearts, who lit cigarettes in boxcars, racketing through snow toward lonesome farms in Grenfell night. That's where I said it stops.
When Allen Ginsberg died in April of 1997, a lot of people, including myself, used to look forward to him coming to Boulder every summer, and he read this series every year. And when he died, like there was this tremendous big letdown of like Boulder wouldn't be as interesting without one person coming back to visit. And I was feeling these really strong feelings about that. And then at his memorial service at this Buddhist center over on the next street over, this guy Reggie Ray got up and like described exactly how I was feeling. You know, he's like, a lot of you are probably feeling this certain way. Described it like word for word and told it. And it was like saying how everyone could deal with this grief and everything. It was one of the most amazing talks I'd ever heard. If you ever get a chance to hear this guy talk, I think he teaches it in Europa. That's the end of our Ginsberg portion of our evening. Thank you to Dylan and all you guys who participated in that, Clint and Brody and MD and Lonnie and everyone. Good night. Last call for drinks, I believe, is in a few minutes, and see you around.